Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, new season of Hannibal. It's Alonso Duralde, William Bibbiani, and holy crap, it's Bryan Fuller, executive producer and creator of Hannibal, who's here to share his insights on episode 1, Antipasto. Thank you, by the way, for not making every episode with a Japanese name this season, because I'm sure I butchered countless gourmet terms last time.
Did you say, I didn't see it, did you say Antipasto like this?
I did not. I did not get stereotypical.
Speaking as an Italian American, This is all you need.
All right. I did not want to go too Super Mario Brothers about it.
Do this. You're totally fine. So we are back, and we had the craziest cliffhanger in recent memory. It was just a fucking massacre at Hannibal's house. Yeah.
And you resolved none of it.
No.
The people we knew survived anyway are the entire focus of this episode. Were you prepared for people to be pissed, or were you thinking that it would just be a fun tease? What was your goal on that?
I thought it would be a fun tease, and the goal really was just to pick up organically with the last people that we saw. Mm-hmm. So the last we saw in season 2 was Hannibal and Bedelia, so that should be the journey that we start on in this season, and it kind of allows the audience to be in the character's point of view, where Bedelia and Hannibal don't know who survived, don't know what's going on, because they just packed up and left.
Yeah.
So from their point of view, it felt like it was an organic way to enter the world and also completely turn the world upside down.
Right. And there's a part of it that's very elegant, and there was also a part of it when I was watching, I'm like, oh, fuck you, Bryan. God damn it. Fuck.
Now, the timeline is all over the place, basically. We kind of kick into, just after they've, arrived in Paris, but then there's flashbacks involving Dr.
Gideon?
Gideon, yeah, sorry. And then, of course, we have further flashbacks to, to Bedelia's murder of a patient, and then forward, and it's, you kind of need your scorecard to tell the players on this one, right?
Well, it's non-linear, but it is emotionally linear.
Sure.
So for the purposes of the story and really understanding the cabal that Bedelia has entered into with Hannibal, that we needed to set the table in a certain order. So going to the first flashback with her is at the end of season 2, and then the second flashback with her is actually 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a tap dance, but I think the nonlinear structure was mainly just to keep me on my toes.
Yeah.
And to get a trip to Paris and Florence out of your no.
Very nice.
Yeah, and when we were in Paris, that was the week of the Charlie Hebdo attacks.
Oh, whoa.
So,
that's heavy.
Our second unit director, Chris Byrne, asked that we dedicate the opening to those artists that died in that attack. And interestingly, or tragically, we were driving around Paris in a leather-clad motorcycle rider with a helmet, which is exactly what the attackers were wearing. So they constantly were being pulled over and questioned because they were looking for...
No, it's okay. It's just Hannibal Lecter.
There'll be an interesting blooper reel. Tell me about the Abel Gideon flashbacks, because on one hand, you might look at the episode and say, how does this relate? But I was watching it and I'm like, it feels like you're making a parallel between what Hannibal and Bedelia are going through, and Bedelia and sort of Abel Gideon is just, who am I having dinner with? Does that make sense? Or?
Well, it was really a study of how Hannibal has relationships with people other than Will Graham. So, and also an excuse to get Eddie Izzard and Mads Mikkelsen back into scenes together, because they love working together. I love seeing them work together. And it felt like it was an interesting exploration of, how does Hannibal have friends?
Yeah.
Like, how does he play well with others? And clearly he does not.
Now, in this first episode, we're starting to play around with elements of the book Hannibal, where Hannibal is on the run in Florence as Dr. Fell. Was his name Roman Fell in the books? I don't remember.
No, it was just Dr. Fell, but Roman, because I love Rosemary's Baby. And
oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the fall of the Roman Empire. I'm like, oh, that's cute too.
It was Roman Castavets.
Nicely done. But we're starting to mix it up a bit. We're seeing Bedelia in the big presentation Hannibal has about Dante Alighieri. You're in interesting waters here, where you get to completely jumble things around.
Yes.
Yeah. What were you excited about?
I love the Ridley Scott film.
Yeah.
I love it, and it was sort of damned at the time, but it's a very good film and it's gorgeous. So I was excited about digging deep into that material, and also, you know, we've always described ourselves as mashup DJs. We're spinning Hannibal tracks to Red Dragon lyrics and coming up with our own stories. So it was really about opening the toy box and having so much to choose from that I wanted to get as much in there and create an interesting orchestration of elements from 3 different books, essentially.
Right. So
Well, I was just going to ask. I mean, Hannibal's usually so good about covering his tracks. I was a little shocked at how easily Dimmond busts him as not being the real Roman Fell, and it's like, I thought, okay, there must be a long game here, because usually Hannibal would be 4 moves ahead at this point.
Well, he is very intentionally trying to make a little bit of a splash.
And to force Bedelia also to commit one way or the other here.
It's about manipulating Bedelia, and it's also his long game of trying to attract everybody to him. He's trying to pull everybody in. So there's a recklessness to Hannibal in this first arc that is uncharacteristic, given how we've seen him behave in the first 2 seasons. But now the cat's out of the bag, and he's not afraid of getting caught because he knows intuitively that Will's going to come looking for him. So he's trying to make some waves so he looks in his direction.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Did you ever consider, as our wonderful dinner guest is enjoying a fine meal with Hannibal and Bedelia, and he says, "Is it that kind of party? Did you ever consider making it that kind of party?" I want to see This Ain't Hannibal XXX at some point, and I feel like we've already got a scene done. The porno parody of Hannibal. Come on, someone's working on that, right?
Well, I mean, I did cackle when I was writing that scene because there's something so delightful about how Gillian Anderson portrays Bedelia navigating all of those entendres and triple and quadruple, and it just felt human and real in the situation. And if they're talking about taste, then she would try to diffuse it by making an oral sex joke, and then he jumps on that. And the fun for me in that scene was just Hannibal's reactions. Maz is so impish and cute when he's smirking that it felt adult in a way, and it felt appropriate. But yeah, I would love to see those 3 people fuck.
It strikes me like, like, how does an orgy get started? Is it just everyone sitting at the table like, are we doing this? Are we doing this? And then Gillian Anderson's like, no, we're not doing this.
I think orgies usually start by invitation to an orgy, so you know what you're gonna get.
That's probably fair.
And you really don't want to get into one with acorn breath. I think it's just really, it's kind of it's things to eat beforehand.
Although oysters are an aphrodisiac,
That's true.
so it would be priming the pump, as it were.
Legendarily so, yes.
Let's continue on this strain of thought. Let's talk about. I want to talk about. You always come up with really great sort of presentational kills on this show. I really liked a lot of them, the totem pole and everything. And now we have man folded up into giant heart.
Yes.
That's fucking gross. Where'd you get that?
It seemed appropriate for a Valentine, and the message, and it is a message that Hannibal is sending to Will Graham to get, because they've talked about the Norman Chapel at Palermo being the foyer of his mind palace, so he knows that Will is going to be going there and looking for him if he hasn't already. So
I choose you, basically.
Yes. With an E, not a
It's a picture of a train.
No double O's, just an E. And it's his broken heart, and it felt like it was very clear that, you broke my heart. It's sad. He's a puppy. Hannibal's puppy.
Cute.
Hannibal or...
You want to love him. You want to love him.
yes.
I've watched Hannibal with people, and they just so love Hannibal, and then he'll do, like in the first season when he betrays Will, and he's taking advantage of his brain disease, and they're just like, I don't like Hannibal anymore. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to, but we do.
Well, that's the fun of this show for me, is to really subvert the audience's expectations for the villain. And we do it with Hannibal, and we've done it with Hannibal, giving him comedy, casting Mads Mikkelsen, who's innately likable. And we're doing it again with Francis Dollarhide later in the season. We go to great lengths to make him a compassionate figure that we feel terrible for, but also are horrified that he's a terrible killer of families.
Right.
I was going to make a comment about whoever's shooting liquid for you is doing a hell of a job.
Oh, yes.
All the champagne and the blood and all the things dropping places. But I wanted to get to the larger idea of this show, and we've said this all along, doesn't look like anything else on television. I mean, it is so gorgeously cinematic, but what is different about the way you guys produce this thing? Do you give yourselves more time? Is it more money? Or is it just that you feel like doing it?
Basically, it's we feel like doing it, and we work very hard to do it. We have this wonderful gentleman by the name of Chris Byrne, who is our second unit director. So he often jokes that he's the janitor who comes in and cleans up, but he's a janitor with a diamond-studded mop and comes in and has such a commercial eye. We have days of just shooting those inserts so we can shoot them commercially, how they would be lit appropriately. And whenever production thinks they're going to be clever and go like, oh, we'll just pick it up with main unit, I'm like, that looks terrible. Like, that's not shot how Chris shoots it.
Right.
Like, get Chris to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys have sort of have the best looking food on television. That is, of course, the most horrifying food on television.
That's the idea.
I get hungry every time I watch Hannibal. I know that's weird. I don't care. It looks delicious.
Last night I was thinking, maybe I should give liver another try. Because
I'll eat
it just
leg. What the hell?
that whole, it was all pan seared and everything. I was like, okay, I can see that. Oh wait, shit, it's a human. No, never mind. But so
It's such a bourgeois attitude. Honestly,
I
Who are
know,
you?
close-minded.
It's delicious.
If you look at the emotional intelligence of pigs and cows, they really are non-human people. So eating meat is cannibalism, whether you like it or not.
No, I know. I'm sure PETA loves this fucking show because
They do. We did a PETA ad.
Nice.
I can only imagine the number of vegans you've created out there.
Myself included.
But yeah. So no, go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. So anyway, I'm obviously I'm on board with the show in general, and I really like this new episode, and I'm very curious to see where we're going. But as we're going to get to Red Dragon, as you've mentioned, we're doing Francis Dollarhide in the second half of the season. We're going to be doing a bit of a remix. I think I asked this before, but this is before you were doing this season when we were on the show last season. What are you just never going to get to? Like, are we never going to see Hannibal stolen paintings from Hannibal Rising, or like what is just like don't get your hopes up?
I don't ever want to see Misha.
Okay, his sister.
I want to talk about her, but Hannibal Rising was one of the hardest books for me to get through because every time, and it's just in the first few pages, every time she says Hannibal without an H, I put that fucking book down and I move on to something else. It drives me bonkers. Hannibal! I'm like, fuck you. And so I just can't with Misha. But I want to talk about Misha. I want to tell the story of the impact she had on his life, but I don't want to see a cute little girl.
And you can't have Clarice Starling. Is that my understanding?
Right
still?
now we cannot.
Okay.
So we're going to keep trying and see if there's additional seasons that there.
Because there was some speculation that the character who had been imprisoned for years, the FBI agent, was going to be sort of your Clarice Monkey, the Anna Klumsky character, yeah.
It was we wanted to deconstruct a Clarice character, and Anna Chlumsky was so great in the role, and we tried to get her back for this season, but schedules didn't permit. But there's yet more story to be told with Miriam Lass.
Yeah, awesome.
And there's more story to be told this season with Mason Verger.
Yes, a lot more.
Because again, we're getting to the Hannibal stuff. But you had to recast. Can you tell me about that? That must have been difficult. I don't know if we're gonna get back in time.
It was. I thought Michael Pitt was so amazing in season 2, and we had a very long negotiation process, and it seemed like it was going to be done, and then it wasn't done, and then we had to move on. And I'm thrilled with how Joe Anderson plays the role. It was actually so much fun to talk to him because he had no idea who we were trying to cast him as. So I got on the phone with him and I was like, well, they told me it's for Hannibal, but they didn't tell me which role. And I said, well, did you see the Ridley Scott movie? And he's like, yes. And it's like, Gary I couldn't even get old men out before he's like, no, that guy, I'm in. And so.
Did you tell him it was post-face eating?
Yeah, and he was like, I don't care. I just want to play that guy. Like, do whatever you need to do to my face. I just want to play that guy. So Joe came in with such an enthusiasm, and you can see hints of the inspiration of Gary Oldman's performance in what he does, but he makes it so wholly his own, and he's acting with his eyes mostly, because everything else is so.
Grafted. It's so much movement.
It's like a big mush face. And there's a dinner scene in episode 6 where he's talking about Hannibal and Will's relationship in very funny terms, and I can't wait for people to see that.
Awesome. So what do we got coming up next episode? You want to tease us?
Next episode is, one of the fun things about this season for us and breaking it is that since we weren't doing the crime procedural, we wanted each of these episodes to be a standalone movie in its own way. So if this first episode was our version of The Talented Mr. Ripley, then the second episode is our version of Don't Look Now, which is kind of which I love that movie. And kind of a deconstruction of grief, and really a poem to grief. And it's perhaps our most pretentious show that we've done.
Wow!
Yeah,
You heard it here.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of blood. Like, it gives the elevators and the Overlook a run for its money.
Nicely done.
All right, well, grab your red raincoat for next week. We're going to be here all season. I hope you'll come back for the finale, Bryan Fuller.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.